Okay, so as I said, my mom and dad forced me into the first psych ward. They hadn't actually seen me they since high school, and this was after high school. This is after college. They saw me like maybe 3 times in college, a few times, but they forced me into the first psych ward because they wanted to make me take medicine, and they said they'll give me a place to stay if I take medicine. But then the doctor said Ryan has no mental illness. He has no personality or no mental illness. They examined me for a week. They kept me there for a week. After the week, he said he doesn't have anything. Then my mom was like, he tricked you. But the doctors told her, no, you can't trick a doctor. If somebody has a mental illness, he can't trick the doctor to make him think he doesn't have it. It's impossible. So they said, and that's what Ryan did. So he doesn't have a mental illness, if that's the case. We determined he doesn't have a mental illness, so he doesn't have one. But they said someone who doesn't have a mental illness can pretend he does have a mental illness, and he can trick a doctor that way, but he can't do it vice versa. If I had a mental illness, I wouldn't be able to trick him, he said. So, but my mom didn't believe me. She's like, oh, he tricked you. He didn't tell you about the quadrant model. Ah! What? Yeah. So then I get out of the psych ward. My mom's, like I said, I'm trying to talk to my mom. And my mom, I'm like, Mom, listen, the doctors, I don't have mental illness. And she, oh, you fucking tricked them out. And that's when I start to realize, like, yes, I do raise my voice to my mom. Because that's one of the things that she says. She says, well, I won't talk to you. Even to this day, like, well, we're not going to see you because you, yeah. Oh, no, when I tried to talk to my uncle, and I said, can you talk to my dad to see if he can talk to me? And my uncle told me he talked to my dad, and he said, well, your dad said that when you talk to your mom, you yell at her. That's why he doesn't talk to you. But now I realize why that happens. Because when I'm trying to talk to my mom, she starts to cut me off, call me names. And sometimes I did yell at her in the past, yes. But I remember at this time, when I needed a place to stay, I'm trying to tell her, I'm like, Mom, listen. The doctor said I don't have mental illness. Yes, you fucking do! You tricked them, you're doing all that. And I'm like, trying to just stay calm. I fucking hate you, I hate your guts. And I'm like, I'm just trying to stay calm. Yeah, I'm just trying to stay calm. So then, yeah, and that's why I do that. That's why I do that. But then the second time, so then my mom was like, okay, well, I'm not going to give you a place to stay until you start taking medicine. So I was on the streets. So then finally, my mom forced me into the second psych ward, telling me if you talk to a doctor, but they wouldn't let me in the psych ward. So I had to tell them that I was suicidal to get into the psych ward. Then when I talked to the doctor, I tried to tell him, like, can you tell my mom that I'm not schizophrenic and all that? And at first she was like, okay, yeah, you don't have any mental illness. But then my mom blackmailed me, told me if I don't let her talk to him, then she is going to break my basketball videos, break my basketball DVDs. So she blackmailed me. So then she and my dad talked to her, and then talked to the doctor, and basically they had me take a shot. He was like, okay, well, we'll give you a shot. So he gave me a shot, but it was a long-acting injectable. But it doesn't start acting for 2 weeks. It doesn't start secreting. It shoots out a microsphere thing, and then the microsphere thing doesn't start secreting until 2 weeks. So they sent me to the outpatient program, and in the outpatient program, I talked to the doctor, and I was like, listen, my mom blackmailed me. She's trying to, and I'm telling her what's going on. And then the doctor was like, okay, well, we'll give you psych testing and do all that, and we'll see if you have a mental illness. They gave me the psych testing, the MMPI, all that stuff, and they said, okay, you don't have a mental illness. And they told my mom, you have to stop, he doesn't have a mental illness, you have to stop trying to make him take medicine. And my mom was like, my mom was furious, and she was like, he tricked you, and they said the same thing. They're like, no, you can't trick us. So, but anyways, then my mom did kind of, for a little bit, stop trying to make me take medicine, because they told her, that's wrong and stuff. But my mom still thought I had a mental illness. So, but anyways, yeah, so as I said, though, then 2 weeks after that, though, the medicine started secreting, and that's when I got gynecomastia, where I grew breast tissue. I got tardive dyskinesia, where my fingers was twitch without my volition and all that. And it made it so, like, a lot of problems. And then so my grandpa was like, you need to start working out so you can get this out of your system. And I was like, yeah, I think so too. So but my mom gave me a second floor apartment, and I was like, and back then I was in really good shape, like, for people don't realize I was pretty, like, I was in very good shape back then. And then after this freaking, the medicine thing destroyed me. It really destroyed me. And I think gave me brain damage. Even the doctors say it gave me nerve damage and brain damage and all that stuff. And like I said, I ended up suing for $25,000. But at this time, I'm at the, you know, I needed to start working out, but my mom gave me a second floor apartment, and I can't work out because it makes noise for the people below me. So I say, you know, can you give me a first floor apartment? My mom's like, oh my God, all you want to do is you want to get your way. That's it. You just want to get your way. You know, you can't make things happen. You can't force things. You know, you can't have your cake and eat it till you just want to get your way. And again, the reason why she's like this is because she has a mental and emotional disturbance from high school when because of the shoot away machine messed up my shot. And me and my dad were shooting. My dad was like, well, Ryan, you know, shoot sideways. What's wrong with you? It's because of the shoot away machine. And I showed videos of that. And like, I didn't want to show people the details because I didn't want to make good shooters think. But I will show surface level details of what happened. But, you know, my dad got frustrated. He's like, okay, I give up. But I was like, Dad, I need your help. Come on, let's. And then he would help me sometimes. But then he'd give up. But I would be like, Dad, I need your help. And then he'd beat me up. And then that's when the abuse started to happen. But then my mom got involved. She's like, you know, and my grandpa came from Kauai. My grandpa's like, Ryan, you can't make things happen. You got to just accept everything's just fine. And just, you know, you can't make things happen. You can't force things. You got to be in the flow. And so my mom's like, yeah, you can't force things. Everything's just fine. As my dad's beating me up. So, and she maintained that. Like, you can't make things happen. You can't always get your way. Because as my grandpa was like, he's like, you can't get your way, Ryan. Well, at that time, I was desperate to get help with my shot because the shoot away messed up my shot. And I didn't know that at the time. I didn't know it was a shoot away machine, and I didn't know what was wrong with me. And my dad was the one who was telling me. I didn't know that. What you have to understand is I didn't know there was something wrong with my shot. My dad was the one who was telling me, you know, and there was something wrong, but I didn't know. So I felt like I desperately needed my dad's help. So I'm trying to, and then I quote unquote tried to force my dad to help me, even though he helped me my whole life. My whole life, he shot me every single day. And that led to that contempt and that hatred by my mom for me. Because she's like, you can't force things. You can't make things happen. You can't get your way. You always want to get your way. Yeah, because of the shoot away machine. If it wasn't for the shoot away machine, none of that would have happened. I was an extremely good basketball player. Everything I did was automatic, and I did things you can't teach. And that's why I can't show you guys exactly what the shoot away did to me. But I showed you some surface level stuff. But so after this, so at this time I was like, you just want to get your way. But then I ended up going to like a Vedanta society because, you know, my grandpa was into the spiritual stuff. So I went to a Vedanta society, and I was talking to the you know, the priest there, or whatever they call them, the guru or whatever. And the guru was like, whoa, Ryan, you know, sometimes we just have to be happy with what we have. You know, you're on the second floor apartment, so we just have to just be happy with what we have. And then so I went to my grandpa, and I told my grandpa what the guru told me. And my grandpa was like, yeah, sometimes gurus and stuff and religious people in general, they have cliches and they just memorize things. They're not necessarily in the flow. And they don't necessarily know what they're talking about. And it's not necessarily inspiration. They're just memorized. They just have things memorized. And that's why I always hated religion, because I was like, yeah, that's the way religious people are. And so my grandpa knew what he was talking about in a lot of ways. That's why I like my grandpa. But it's true. Like, that's why I hated religion, because I'm like, I thought religious people were like my mom, always blaming the victims and just being like, and that's why I was like a Marxist communist, because I'm like, yeah, what the fuck? Like, why do you have to accept negative stuff happening to you? Like, because the religious people are like, well, just accept it. You'll go to heaven, and you know, just be happy with what you have. And I'm like, no, if there's injustice, you gotta like, and even my grandpa admits that. He's like, yeah, if there's injustice, sometimes it's best to fight, and sometimes it's best to do that stuff. And that's what I liked about my grandpa. But so this time my grandpa was on my side. My grandpa's like, no, you should get a first floor apartment. Your mom should help you because you need to get this stuff out of your system. Like, this is really bad. So my mom ended up getting me a first floor apartment. So I got the first floor apartment, and at that time, yeah, but like I said, right before I got the first floor apartment, I was doing lunges, and I didn't warm up because I was on the second floor, and I tore a tendon behind my knee. And they're playing their music really loud and annoying, like, yeah. So, so I had so I hurt the tendon in the back of my knee. So I needed help from my dad again. And at that time, I was just gonna go back into basketball, but at this time, I had a torn tendon in the back of my knee. I was messed up, and I felt like I needed my dad. My dad's a doctor, so I'm trying to call my mom, and again, like, she had me blocked most of the time. I could barely get in touch with her, but you know what? She hadn't seen me since high school, really. So I'm trying to say, can I get dad's help? And my mom's like, Oh my God, you need your dad? What are you, 23 years old? You don't need your dad. You just have a hamstring injury. Just get over it. Just do rehab, whatever. You don't need to talk to your dad. He's never going to talk to you again in your life. So I'm like, but I felt like I needed my dad. And I would just like to talk to my dad. And I wanted to talk to my dad about the shoot away. I want to show him stuff. I want to move on, but they won't move on. So I would try to tell my mom, the problems happen, and the reason you still act like this is because you're mad about high school, but it happened because of the shoot away. Oh my God, why are you talking about the past? Stop talking about the past. Get over the past. And I'm like, no, you're the one who's stuck in the past. But, and that's why I was mad at my grandpa, because my grandpa was the one who first introduced that idea of like, no talking about the past, because it was a spiritual thing. Like, if you're in the flow, you're in the eternal moment and you're not in the past. But my grandpa initially introduced that concept because he didn't want me to be talking about the abuse that happened to me. And I didn't talk about the abuse, but at this point I had something positive to say. I'm just like, hey, it was a shoot away. Now let's move on. Let's be happy. But no, now talk about the past. We don't talk about the past. She's the one who's disturbed and traumatized by the past. I think we're all traumatized by what happened. I was abused, and it was because of the shoot away machine. But I can move on. They're the ones who aren't willing to move on and aren't willing to let go. So I'll get more to that later. But so after that, I'm trying to get help from my mom and dad. So I ended up going to the doctors. The doctor said I had the kind of Kamassi, all this type of stuff. I felt like I needed help. And then I went to my aunt's house, and I asked her, can you get in touch with my dad so I can talk to my dad? And my aunt was like, because my aunt was influenced by my grandpa and my mom too. My grandpa and mom told her, my mom told her, the reason why Ryan has schizophrenia is because he can't get over the past, and I didn't have schizophrenia. But then my aunt was like, Ryan, why do you need to talk to your dad? Are you a 2-year-old? Are you a baby? Like, why do you need your daddy? Just like my fucking mom, because they're the same. They're both acting immature, and they both. So then I went outside and I started kicking the pots in her front yard, and I left. And then she called the police, and that's when I went to jail for the first time. But I've only been to jail 2 times. I only had 2 misdemeanors on my. Actually, I only had 1 misdemeanor on my record because I had a lawyer expunge my record. And he said there was only 1 misdemeanor on my record. And I think that was the one. That was a misdemeanor. So I kicked her pots in her front yard. And then I go out, and my mom's like, you see, this is why we never talk to you. I hope you go to jail, and I hope they rape you. I hope you go to prison, blah, 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 blah. And my friend was listening to me, my friend Francisco, and he's like, dude, your mom's fucking crazy. And I'm like, yes. But again, she has that contempt for me because she has a hatred from high school because of the trauma that happened then because of the shoot away machine. If it wasn't for the shoot away machine, none of it would have happened. My shot wouldn't have got messed up. I wouldn't have needed help from my dad. My dad was the one who got the shoot away. My dad was the one who told me to shoot wrong with the shoot away. Like I said, it was just a tragic situation, but it wouldn't have happened. If it wasn't for the shoot away, I would have been a star basketball player. Everything would have been good. It really would have. I was exceptional. And the only thing, but this is the thing that pisses me off. So then I ended up going to my parents, or to my grandma's house, who lived near my parents. And I wanted to ask her, like, can you help me get my mom and dad to help me with my leg, because I had a hurt leg. I had a torn tendon in the back of my knee. I needed help. So I go to my grandma's house, and my sister's there. And my sister yells at me through the door because I'm trying to get into my grandma's house. My sister's like, no, you're not allowed here. You need to leave. So I'm like, what the fuck? I'm like, Leah, can I talk to grandma? And she's like, no, you need to leave. And then she goes up she walks up the stairs. So then I picked up some pots, and I threw the pots into the door, and I broke the glass of the door. And then I left. But then my sister called the police. So I guess I didn't even get a misdemeanor for this. But then they took me to court, and I ended up my sister got a restraining order against me from my grandma's house near my mom's house. So I wasn't able to ever go to my mom and dad's house. So then I'm completely isolated and excluded and like ostracized. So I just wanted to see my dad. I needed help from my dad, So then I go to my grandpa's place, who lives in Malibu. And I'm telling him, like, Grandpa, I need help with my leg. And my grandpa was like I said, my grandpa was like, well, if you're, maybe what's preventing your leg from healing is, since you're not independent, it's making it more hard to heal, because, if you're independent, then you're more in the flow. in your energy system and everything. And I'm like, no, well, maybe the reason why I'm having a hard time healing my leg is because I'm being ostracized and I'm being alienated and thrown to the side. Like, maybe that's also contributing to it, you know? But my grandpa always, yeah, I'm being thrown under the bus. But my grandpa's always trying to make me the bad guy. He's always trying to, like, that's why I was always like, he's a victim blamer. Like, sometimes he understood what he's talking about, but he's a victim blamer. So, and as I said, so I'm starting to write online and I'm writing on Facebook about what's going on with my family. And I'm like, you know, can people, because I want help. It's a cry for help. Like, I'm trying to get people to help me. And then, but my grandpa's like, Ryan, you know, don't blame, don't complain. You know, there's the deadly bees, bitching, bemoaning, begging, bulldozing. You know, those are self-confirmatory and they're the deadly bees, you know, complaining, you know, and all that stuff, you know, that's self-confirmatory, getting angry, you know, all that stuff. And it's ways to make things happen and it's not the flow. And again, this is why I was a communist. Like, not the whole reason. Like, I saw myself as Jewish and I was always a communist because I was like anti-white growing up. But
the cake's over here.
Yeah, I know. No, don't say anything. But yeah, so I was always like that. But, you know, this is why, because I was like, dude, this is that whole, like, religious thing of, yeah, just accept your lot and don't blame and don't complain. And I'm like, dude, I'm being mistreated. I want to blame and complain and I want to fix things. That's what communism was about. It was, like, Marx was like, don't just have theories, make changes. And I'm like, we need some changes. I need my family to stop ostracizing me, you know? So, but my grandpa's like, well, he's not helping me. He's like, yeah, just, you know, Ryan, just don't blame. Just go all out. Just don't make excuses. Just go all out and don't make excuses and don't blame, don't complain, don't make excuses. Just work your hardest and okay, that's all well and good and that sounds great. But you know what would really help me? If my family would just freaking talk to me and help me. If my dad was a doctor would look at my leg, which is hurt, you know? So that's what was going on at that time. And yeah, so I'm trying to think what else I want to say about that. Well, I guess I'll continue in the next one.